This episode of the podcast is supported by Motoshack. Motoshack is your one-stop shop for all things sticker related. So if you want custom stickers for your mountain bike suspension forks, wheels, custom frame decal kits, all the way through to motocross bikes, vehicle stickers, or even signs, make sure you speak to the guys at Motoshack. And throughout the whole of December, Motoshack are going to give all of the Hookit podcast listeners 10% off every order. So all you have to do is literally get in touch with them and make sure you mention the Hookit podcast. Unfortunately, some Russian hackers recently stole the website, but you can check out Motoshack's work by simply searching them out on Facebook or Instagram. Or you can just click in the show description below and you'll be able to find links to all Motoshack stuff right there. So don't forget, 10% off throughout the whole of December just by mentioning the Hookit podcast. They also do trade stuff too, so for all of our dealers out there and trade listeners, make sure you get in touch with the guys at Motoshack. This episode is also brought to you by 35 Bikes, and during this episode, we will be giving you the chance to win a winter goodie bag. So keep listening, and somewhere within this podcast, you will find out all the details. You're listening to the Hookit podcast, brought to you by hukitproducts.co.uk.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Getting size going big.
Going huge.
And I was like, guys was just like flying over me, looking like my head couldn't move fast enough. Woo! Like really, like, you know, really insane that what was like. It's so crowded, but just good fitting and just like people flying all the time.
Love it.
We're going streaky! Yeah!
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hookit podcast. This is episode number 14, and this is an awesome one. This was so cool to sit down and speak to Duncan Philpott. Obviously, Duncan is a world-renowned mountain bike photographer. He's done some rather large projects for the likes of Deep Summer. He's done some stuff for Hope, Nike, all sorts of stuff. It's pretty incredible, actually, what this guy's achieved in quite a short space of time. And again, it's really interesting to hear about his journey into how he became arguably one of the best mountain bike photographers on the planet. So, again, I think before we start, it's always nice to say a quick thank you, especially after the last episode. The episode with Danny Hart went down a treat, and thanks for everyone who reached out and gave us some positive vibes over on our social media outlets. Again, it's at the Hookit Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find all of our episodes over on our website, which is hukitproducts.co.uk. Just click the About section and then you'll see the Hookit Podcast. If you are enjoying these episodes, I know I always say it and I'm becoming a bit of a stuck record, but please leave us a review on iTunes and just reach out in any way you can, even if it's a share or anything like that. It means a bunch, and it's really helping the show grow. And I think that's about all. I want you to hear this episode, so let's crack on. So on today's show, we have Duncan Philpott, and here we go.
I'm good. Just
Good.
enjoying another day in the house behind a computer screen, the glamorous side of
Office,
it all.
don't forget it's an office.
Office, our living room.
Oh man, finally got this laid down. Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
No worries. It's nice to be around and back in the UK.
Well, that's very true. I know you've been away a lot recently. I'm going to come back to that actually really quick in a sec, but I think I always like to do a quick introduction, and I'll let you do it because it's going to be best. So kind of a bit of a who you are and like what you do.
Sure. Well, my name's Duncan Philpott. I am a photographer, and I take pictures of bikes pretty much for a living. Most people seem pretty surprised when you kind of make out that you can have a living from that, but it seems to be stringing along at the moment. So fingers crossed that keeps up.
Yeah, for sure. It seems quite lucrative as well if you're at the top of the game like you are.
Well, it's certainly it's in line with any other sort of career where I guess you pour 90% of your life hours into it. So.
True, very true, very true. So I know you've just come back from, was it China?
Yeah.
Bike packing.
It
was for a holiday.
Big inverted commas around it.
So you've had a whole year traveling around the world photographing bikes, and then you came back, and to definitely my surprise, you went off to China.
Yeah.
With your new missus.
Yeah, well, she's been out there for quite some time, so if I had any chance of seeing her, I had to go out to China and go on a self-supported bike mission and, endure hospital visits and all sorts of things going on. Don't want to go too much into detail. Worry my parents too much if they listen to this.
Shout out to Dunk's folks. But yeah, your missus is doing like a bike sort of traveling thing across China. She's nearly at the end of it, but she's coming back for a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, so she's going from Beijing to Hong Kong in what to me seems like the most roundabout way possible, but she seems to enjoy it. She seems to have no limit to her endurance or fitness, which I discovered. I got very used to seeing the red. Not meant in any shrewd manners at all. Yeah, she was racing off on the bike, and I quite enjoyed it. It's certainly a good way actually to clear your head after a long season of work, and it has been a long one because last winter I went to New Zealand and the work carried on over there, running on pretty much. I remember last year I had like 4 days after the end of post-season bike work. So it gets to like the end of the season and everyone's like, the athletes are free, the photographers are free, let's throw loads of work at them, because they're not racing anymore. Yeah. And, all that stuff died down, and 4 days later I was off to New Zealand, and I remember like having to do my tax return and everything in that 4-day window. So it didn't feel like they were 4 days off. Yeah, so that ran into the next season with all the pre-season testing and stuff, and then it was back into races.
So about 18 months flat out, probably a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a strange one because it probably feels more flat out than it actually is, because your work is also in great deal your hobby, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally understand.
If you get a day off, you go ride your bike. I know it'll always end up kind of being something semi-work related when you go ride your bike, and it all sort of matters. But yeah, I wouldn't change it.
And I'm guessing even when you're out on a like chilled out ride, you take your camera anyway, just in case something happens, or.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Like, you do have to you always do want to head out with a camera, and I've been trying to limit myself lately and just take the phone. More recently. I mean, they're pretty good at taking photos nowadays, aren't they? Most people.
Yeah, they are, especially your one.
The amount of phone content that you push onto like social media channels and stuff, and people are like, this is cool. And you're just like, yeah.
No, definitely. My missus got exactly the same phone as and it's awesome compared to an iPhone. I think it's a Sony, isn't it? As an experience.
Yeah. So I had the Sony for quite a while. It unfortunately died a slight death, much like it became a bit of a running joke and part of the whole pray for Duncan thing. Because I managed to get through like this year. It died down a bit at the start of I think from March onwards, but probably a year around to that March, I got through like 5 phones, just like each one having a spectacular death, like insane rain at the EWS in Einser in Spain, and it drowned my jacket pocket. It pretty much filled up with water, and I pulled the phone out with deluge of water, and that one died. And I don't even know, broke one in Cairns at the World Cup. Like, I just pulled out my pocket and it was obliterated. One fell down the track in the Leergang and just went head over heels, and that was annihilated by the time I got it. Yeah, it's sort of it takes a toll on the kid.
Classic. So anyway, let's get into some stuff, man. I think one thing I'd like to know as well is how you actually first got into taking photos, and what were you first photographing?
Well, yeah, there's actually a bit of a story.
Sorry, that sounded like an interview then.
No, it's good. I mean, it is something that seems to interest people. And for me, there's I guess, go right back to the beginning. I was 13 years old when I got into photography. It's photography being something that I was really keen to do. And funnily enough, it stemmed as a result of me hurting myself, having a dodgy foot. And I was away with the family, and we were staying with my uncle, and there was I was given a stack of magazines, so I foot I couldn't really do much. It was pretty nicely cut. and this magazine, it ranged from like magazines you probably shouldn't see at that age through to like sports cars, you know, and then there was like photography, and I was like, photography is the acceptable middle ground here. I'll just take this.
I'll save the razzle till later.
I remember it was Practical Photography was the name of the mag, and I bought another one at the airport, and then I bought a few more when I was at home, and it like really got me into it, and I hadn't got a clue. Like I'd never had any sort of like formal education or anything like that. I was picking up this magazine and seeing the settings someone took a photo on, you know, 'cause it was like in the corner, setting that on my camera, taking a picture and wondering why I didn't look the same. And this was as well, like, it started out with film, so it was like you get a whole rollback and it would be like, oh, this is just a disaster. But I moved on to my first digital camera pretty quickly. I managed to convince my dad to drive me this was back when I lived in Hemel, and there was a camera store like out past Milton Keynes way or somewhere, I remember. And there's this one camera I'd researched, and it was like the one that I wanted. It was first digital. It was like a bridge super zoom compact thing. And I was like, there was only one like left on clearance. And I got into my local Jessop's and like, yeah, there's only one at this store. You're going to have to go over there to go get it. And convinced my dad. And I remember it was £200. It was a lot of money, but money I'd saved like from various bits of pocket money over the years. I've been pretty frugal, and I was just preparing for arriving in Yorkshire really with that side of things. But got that camera, and then obviously the trial and error sort of sped up a bit then, because you can just rattle shots off like crazy. And I started then designing websites for like local small businesses like little web pages and things, getting paid by the web page for camera gear. Then I like started working in a Jessop's, and then I basically blew through my staff discount limit within my first, like, as soon as my paycheck had gone above that amount, because all my money was going back into camera stuff. And yeah, like, I arrived at uni, I guess. I mean, I didn't really ever consider photography as a career. You know, I was like, finished
So what were you
school.
photographing there back then? Were you obviously not bikes just yet?
No, not really. It was like, I don't really want to direct people in the direction of my Flickr account, but it was a lot of stuff on Flickr, and it was mainly like self-portrait creative based, because you had no other real resources to work with, and you know, it was just a lot of conceptual stuff.
Right, okay.
It was good for understanding basics of like the way that off-camera lighting works and all various sides of it, and yeah, like that was it. And I did actually, you know, I had a mate who rode bikes. I got into bikes pretty much in my first year of sixth form. Mm-hmm. So by my last year of sixth form, I think I'd gone to like a 4-cross race, and I think I might have had a photo of you from there.
Oh, right.
There was like you, I think Paddy, a bunch of other people racing. Like, I think that was
really?
one of the earlier.
Did I meet you there?
Yeah, I don't know if you met. I remember having a photo. You used it as your profile picture way back.
No way.
The one of you square to the camera. It was like pretty tight upper body shot.
It.
Like,
did you take that really? I genuinely didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was
wow.
One of my
favorites. Claim to fame for both of us, man.
And yeah, so my university choices. I was like, right, photography. Don't really want to do photography. Enjoy it as a hobby. I was like, okay, well, am I good at maths? Right, I'll go do maths. And I was like, where am I going to do it? I was like, okay, I can go ride a bike here, I can ride a bike here. And it was kind of already influencing my decisions, because riding bikes is a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah.
And the one that sort of won out of the whole degree location thing was Sheffield. And believe it or not, like, I reckon a good contributing factor was Joe's This Is Sheffield videos, because they just started coming out. And there's actually a comment on the second episode from me saying that I'm going to be coming up to Sheffield.
I'm going to peep all this stuff out, don't worry.
And then so I went from fast forward like less than that, 4 months into uni, and I actually bump into Joe in the woods one day filming an episode of This Is Sheffield with Swinney. I think Jack Redding was there. Jolly was floating about on a hardtail killing himself at like any opportunity. And I introduced myself, and we kind of like just, you know, got chatting more, and I came along to one of the dual races and started doing things for This Is Sheffield website, meeting Nick, and now this is where like everything started getting on a more of a mountain bike path. Pretty much from this point in, all I ever seemed to take photos of was bikes. And the real sort of commercial start of it all was actually just when I shot a 510 UK 510 signed Steve P.
Yeah.
And of course, Joe's dad was bringing in 510 at that time to the UK and asked me to do some press release images.
Wow.
Thrown
in at the deep end right there, like.
Yeah, I know.
But it's one of them, innit? It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's who you know. And
yeah, it definitely is for many aspects of things, but the thing is, you can always influence who you know. That's like, there's that saying, but you can always go to a much greater effort to network and meet people so that you know people and that sort of stuff. That's something else.
Yeah, definitely.
Another question, but so I remember having this shoot with Steve, and I remember even at the end him suggesting one or two things to me when it came to like one of the portraits, like how he should be stood or something like that, because Steve had done like 1,000,001 photo shoots and I hadn't. But like we got through that, it was good, and that was like my first paid work as such. But obviously working with Steve and being local to Steve, it started bringing in more and more jobs through him, like little bits that magazines wanted with Steve, or it just got name out there a little bit, and I started did a couple of little bits for, say, Wide Open Mag, and there was This Is Sheffield as well. So you're just kind of like starting to push things out in different directions. And eventually through Steve, I got a retainer to do some work for Monster Energy Content Pool at Fort William and Leogang.
Okay.
So they were like my first 2 World Cups, and this was in my first year of uni. And it was one hell of an experience.
I bet, I can imagine. One thing Joe said as well when he was on this, he was saying that like he basically had no idea what he was doing. He was just winging the whole thing. But were you pretty confident by that point with a camera, or were you still?
So I think from the start of bike photography, I'd obviously been into photography already for like 5 or so years, pretty keenly. So I always felt confident with the camera and stuff. But like, as far as the workings of a World Cup, knowing the athletes, or even knowing necessarily what was particularly cool on a bike, I didn't really know, because I was quite new to the whole bike thing, and I wasn't an amazing bike rider myself.
Still not.
Still not. Yeah. It feels that way. It's a lack of improvement if you continue to ride with the people that you shoot who are professionals and the best of their game.
Certainly helps.
Absolutely useless, yeah. So yeah, we had that. It was not without its troubles. Went to Leogang in a Renault Traffic with Tim Lake, and I was sat next to me, Tim Lake, and Nate Parsons.
Yeah.
So obviously, being sat next to Nate, I had zero
He's a
space.
big lad.
Like cabin seats and this thing, and like we're just squashed together, and we got 1,200 miles, whatever it is, from Fort William all the way through to Leogang in Austria. And a Renault Traffic, being a good old Renault Traffic, the turbo popped off about 6 times, and the thing would like stutter to a halt, and you had to go under, like push everything on. All that aside, Leogang went pretty well. And obviously doing this Monster Energy retainer, it was weird because it was the first time I had to introduce myself to people like Sam Hill, Troy was just a Simon Monster, Brendan, and the only one I really knew was Steve. And that was the only sort of credit I had. But luckily, if you're loosely associated with Steve on the World Cup circuit, most people will give you a bit of time. Like, that man is a legend, as everyone says. And
for sure.
But I was like, these people were, I knew they were a big deal, but because I had never had that, like, from the age of 12, looking up and thinking that these are the most amazing bike riders ever, I wasn't the most insanely starstruck. Steve always I hadn't always kind of known who Steve Pete was, but outside of like the UK scene, I wasn't that great.
Yeah. So you weren't like starstruck or anyone, or like not as intimidated as what some people might be.
Yeah, but I was still nervous. I mean, obviously these are top athletes, energy drink sponsors, and all that, and I'm just some kid doing a maths degree at uni, blagging it with a camera. And head home from that trip, we hit a wild boar on the toll road at night. Like, we were on the slow lane and it ran from the fast lane out across the front of the van. We hit it, we right off the van. We were all lucky to be like okay, but we then had this fiasco with the the travel insurance company being like we had like AA European cover or whatever, and they're like trying to tell us that we can get this rental like Renault Clio or something. And we're like, no, there's 3 of us in a van worth of stuff. Like, we need a bigger car than that. And I remember we got like this estate, and we left some stuff in the van, which then got like you had to get the local police force to tow you off the toll road because it was, a commercial road or something, like private road. You couldn't get like their tow company to come tow you, and there was all this like translation madness, I remember. And eventually we got the car after like a full night of sorting it out, and the next morning we were pretty tight to our ferry time then, so we were keen to get there. And as we're driving, pretty quickly to the ferry, French tolls are pretty fast, pretty within the limit, maybe. It's when the Classic Le Mans finished, and there's all these amazing, expensive sports cars like pinning past us because that's just finished, elsewhere in France, and they were going back to the ferry or the tunnel. And because of this, there might have been slightly heightened police speed, police force numbers side of the road.
It's okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we then got subsequently nicked for speeding.
No way.
And then they did something that
actually arrested.
Yeah, well, they were quite dodgy about it, actually, because they took our passports off us, which is now, as far as I'm aware, they couldn't have done. Okay. Confiscated all our passports, then escorted us to the nearest cash point, made us make a cash withdrawal of a speeding fine to pay it to that police officer there and then. And then got left on our way. I was like, right.
No way. Really? I mean, I've had some experiences like that, though, with travelling. Obviously, as you know, I did loads of Poland trips and stuff like that, and Poland was terrible for it. There was this one police officer, I can still picture his face because he did me and my cousin at the time like 4 or 5 times. He'd just see an English registration plate, pull us over and just be like, 250 zlotys. And you're like, what for? Oh, you must pay, and that's obviously, at that time, that's all they speak English. They don't know any other language or any other words. They're like, you must pay, that's all they say to you. And it's like, all right, okay. Luckily, it's only like, it's 50 quid. It wasn't that time. And you just pay it, and then off you go. And it's like, it's so dodgy. It is so dodgy. But, it seems to the way of doing things over there sometimes.
Definitely. Yeah, so that was that, and that was
your welcome to the World Cup scene was that.
Yeah. And somehow I thought World Cups were a good idea after all that. I mean, they're pretty cool. And the next year, I missed Val de Sol, which was the first one because I had exams.
So were you working at the time then as well, or were you just doing the photography?
Well, so those were just these little Monster Energy jobs, and it was sort of enough just to basically cover me getting there and back, and it was good experience, I guess, all in. Yeah. And then Fort William, the next following year, I went up to it, not having any work as such. I still wasn't really considering this being like a career thing. And I get there, and what had I done before? I sort of actually had some dealings with the mag, actually, with Dirt Magazine. Sorry, this is where I'm going with this.
Right.
I'd had some dealings with the mag, like little pieces, little article bits, just so the folks there a bit. And I get to Fort William, and I remember Billy, who was the current web guy at the time, comes up to me and he's like, yeah, Duncan, Victor Lucas isn't here. It's like his first Fort William he's missed in 12 years or something. He's like, can you do the Dirt gallery photos for us alongside Seb Schick? I was like, yeah, sure, definitely. Like, that's
right.
out of nowhere. Like, I'm being asked in the pits, having arrived on a Thursday night. I'm like, oh, I got some work. This is fantastic.
Awesome.
And it was pretty good pay as well. I was on the proper rate for it as well. And I was like, at the end of that, I was like, oh, this is cool. And I think accommodation wise, I was still sleeping on a hotel room floor shed with Rob Stokes, Nick Hamilton, Jobo,
the glory days.
And so I get this work and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And then I go to get home and I'm like, well, got enough money to afford at least the flight to go, and it's still the cheapest year actually this flight was, to go out to Mont St. Anne and Wyndham. I was like, why not? I think Jobo was going, he started This Is Beatty stuff, and I also then blagged some work to do. I say blagged, I negotiated skillfully some work to do these 5-10 slideshows, and went out to Mont St. Anne and Wyndham. And Mont St. Anne was the first of the 2 events, and I remember being sat during qualifying underneath that, and I didn't have any work. I was just there again, just to keep up with the scene and all that, and just spending all the money I had. I was sat underneath the motorway section, prestigious, and I was using my Canon 5D2. It was the camera at the time. It's by no means like a sports camera. The 5D series back then, the autofocus couldn't really track motion at all that well. So I was manually focus pulling for photos like the video guys were doing with their video cameras. And I remember Sven Martin sort of taking notice of me then and wondering what on earth I was doing and why I was this strange kid. Anyway, introduced myself to Sven, kind of got on with Sven. Little did I know that guy's going to have quite an impact on the next few years. But fast forward to the next round in Wyndham, and Gary Perkin has now moved off the scene, and he'd left a massive hole over at Vital.
Right.
And I think Matt DeLorme was contributing some images to that one as well, and I contributed a few images into that and got paid here and there for the odd image, and my food costs were being covered by like this 5-10 work, and I was just about making things come together. But basically at that round, Sven was like, here, take this. Little did I know this is really like Sven does this the whole time now. He just tries to offload all his excess luggage on other people so he doesn't have to fly it around. But at this time, this piece of excess luggage was pretty cool. It was pretty special. It was a Canon 1D3, which was like probably 4 years old at the time, 4 years of solid work. It was an absolute workhorse, but for me, it was like a proper sports shooting camera, and it was amazing. And I started, doing the Vital stuff alongside him, and
So I loaned you the camera.
Yeah, he loaned me the camera. Basically, I had to get it serviced over winter, and that was it. And I remember coming into winter not being able to afford a proper camera charger for it either, and I had like this one job that I was covering this cyclocross race with, Steve Butcher.
No, I don't think I do. No,
one of the dirt riders, and I had to cover him doing like a cyclocross race. And I remember to use the camera, I bought like a dodgy £25 battery from eBay that would come with some charge on it. So I could use it for this one job. As I couldn't charge the battery out for it otherwise, and I sent it up for reserve and all that. And then I was fully on with Vital the next year, and I picked up Chain Reaction Cycles and a few other things, and it was from that point onwards, it was full roll, full steam
blown.
Yeah,
so
it was.
Right, wow. Did you finish your university stuff then, or?
Yeah, I did.
It
was quite a juggling act because I was quite heavily on the cycling club side of things at uni. Some of the running of that, and then the photography was work. I remember maybe taking off nearly a full week of uni to go do the Santa Cruz Bronson launch with Joe, because Gary had hurt his back, and we were sort of like the fill-in guys, and we were like, oh, this is a pretty cool job. And that was
rad. It's so cool though how it just snowballed for you. It's crazy, isn't it? How it just goes. People say your network is your net worth, and as you keep building it, just more stuff keeps happening for you. It's crazy.
Sorry, that was quite long. It's probably a lot for you to have to
No, not at all. No, cut about. I don't do any editing, dude. Come on.
Oh, you mean make it sound amazing?
No. What's it called that Kanye uses? What's that thing? Oh man, I can't remember. Auto-tune. Auto-tune the whole thing.
Auto-tune, cut it out. Make my answers sound concise and make me sound intelligent.
Nah, man, I don't believe in editing. It's just raw. You just put it out. It was funny when I did when we first started this and I had Ty on the show. I still say show. I had Ty on, Ty Woofenden, and he's like, "Can I swear, mate?" or whatever in his Aussie accent. I'm like, "Yeah, of course you can. Just crack on. It is what it is. We just throw out whatever."
Yeah, brilliant.
That's kind of what I like about it, though, man. There's no need to be editing and playing around with stuff. It's just a chat that people hopefully will enjoy listening to.
You can put a little subtext description, Duncan does eventually finish his story about how he got into photography around the 26-minute mark, by the way, folks. If you want to skip ahead.
Brilliant. No, it's good, man. It's good to hear, because even though we're friends and stuff, I didn't quite realise, how you got to the point where you're at now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't know you took that photo of me, and I vaguely remember meeting you a few times through Joe, coming over to your student house and stuff, and you were planning some stuff out with Joe, and it's weird, isn't it? Time flies, and all of a sudden we're here, and you're doing what you're doing. It's incredible. It's crazy. So respect, man, respect. One thing I wanted to ask you as well is, we don't have to get into the financial side of it at all, but I am I don't really understand how being a professional photographer actually works. So as far as the season coming around pretty soon, I guess. So are you starting to put do you do like proposals for teams and then?
Yeah. So the way it's been for me, it's going to be slightly different next year. But the way it's been for the last few years is, my work's been predominantly race based, mainly around the downhill circuit, and then a few enduros. And this year it was full of both. And then outside that, you have commercial shoots and editorial shoots. So with the race stuff, you put proposals together. You're in touch with the teams, and it's kind of like it's a strange environment because there's obviously a finite amount of teams, and there's a few photographers, and no one really goes and poaches teams from each other. If someone's got a team, usually, everyone does a pretty good job. We're lucky there's some pretty skilled guys on the circuit and everyone kills it. And, every team's pretty stoked with what they're getting. Mm-hmm. So there's only like a vacancy if someone moves off or something like that, or there's like a major team reshuffle. And I was fortunate enough that like when I came in, Chain Reaction Cycles, the whole thing was changing. It was no longer MTB Cut doing all the media management, so that had all moved on. So there's that. And then likewise, when Lawrence went off from Madison doing the Madison Saracen stuff, that left an opening there and you get in the conversations. Then it becomes a point where everyone puts their proposals together. They detail what they can do for what cost, and it sort of goes in as like a bit of a bid, and they choose who they want to use. Mm-hmm. And in that case, what you essentially do is you actually know at the start of the year, you've got all your contracts in place, and all right, I've got a retainer for this amount for this team, I've got a retainer for this amount for this brand, I've got a retainer for this amount for, say, Vital doing editorial stuff around the World Cups, and across a section of, say, like 4 or 5 teams, 2 mountain bike brands or whatever, you find yourself pretty flat out and you can make a good earning. And it's kind of like you're freelance, but there's none of that risk. You know what I mean? You've got a set amount of money coming in, and and that's quite comforting. Now, I'm actually making the decision to not do the downhill stuff next year. Mm-hmm. So that means I'm still doing the enduro side of things, but doing that alone isn't enough to make a living. So therefore, I have now this unknown entity of like, obviously, well, when you're at races and things, you get quite frequently asked to do other jobs, and you unfortunately never have the time for them. That's one of the reasons to sort of make this move, is to just change the photography a bit and do something different and, challenge yourself with something new. And when it comes down to, say, things like the commercial jobs or the editorial jobs, that's where you're then working on, say, like a day rate basis, or you have like a shooting day rate, you're paid a certain fee to be there, and then there's a licensing fee for the usage of the images on top of that, or it's inclusive in the day rate, and the day rate's higher. And it's sort of a job by job basis as to what's required and how long it is, how many days, like you apply day discounts and things. And that's sort of like how it goes. Every now and then, like, you get someone, like a company, just wanting to buy an image.
Right, okay.
And depending on the usage of that, they want something that's unlimited usage. It could be as much as, say, it could be around £600 just for a single image if they want all the rights in the world to go with it. Mm-hmm. And, if someone can do that and you sort them out with the image, and on a day like that, you feel like, God, it's really easy money. But it's not always like that. And those requests are pretty few and far.
But the thing is, though, as well, surely that although that image, let's say you do charge £600, for example, for an image, it might have cost you a ton of money to get there to
obviously.
Event, or
there's all the overheads of having gone somewhere and being like that, and it's hard to boil it down to a single per image cost, because you obviously take 3,000 images a day. Mm-hmm. Not every single one of those is going to be an absolute banger that someone wants to use on every single spread, and this usage of that, and it's going to go into catalogs here and use some advertisement here and here, and it sounds like a lot of money. They'll pay £600 for the image, but they could then go and drop £2,000 plus on the advertising that pushes that image at least, or something. Sure. Yeah, it's quite strange. If one image like that sells one mid-spec bike for them, they've made up the money on
that's it.
The
one exactly. It's a huge tool, massive.
On top of that, and then obviously with social media arriving, the whole thing changed quite a bit.
I guess you kind of came in and saw all that sort of stuff grow and blow up. Really,
originally it was like we had our contracts. People wanted high-res images for print advertising, web advertising, and they wanted low-res images just sort of see immediately and maybe do written press releases with. And then very quickly it changed so that you've got Instagram and Facebook pages for teams and all this. And now that is the majority usage of the images. And originally that stuff was either just a freebie thrown in on top because there was no real value in it. But now it has such a following for a brand to say push a product or an image on Instagram. It could see 50,000 impressions in 24 hours, which is more than you could get from any print advert or a web advert, unless it's on one of the biggest mountain bike websites out there. So therefore, the usage carries a cost. And it was quite interesting.
It stays there too. It doesn't get thrown in the bin or anything. It's just there. And
I had a very cool opportunity, what must have been 2 years ago now, and I wish I'd kind of made more of this, to be honest, but things were very busy with the bikes and I never got a chance to. But I did Instagram content for Nike. They are a massive brand. I had one day an email hit my inbox that you'd think's like one of those Arabian princes, trying to. But it was from this agency, they're called Conscious Minds, and they were the people that were running this program for Nike, and you get this person's name and you Google it and you Google their business and it's like, oh, it's a real person, it's a real business. Maybe this could be something, and you're like, can we get on a call? And you have a call with them and they're like, we've been recommended you. And I'm still, for the life of me, if someone by chance listens to this podcast and knows who put me forward for this or put me into their short list, I really would like to know because it was a really cool opportunity. But we've come across you. Do you want to come to Amsterdam to our European headquarters and basically find out all about? They'll be really secretive about it all, and there's still some things that you're on an NDA you can't talk about, their marketing tactics and all this stuff. But long story short, you kind of went to Amsterdam, 2 days of lectures, and you came out of it, and there were a few of you that produced some content for them because they wanted organic content. And so I had some images published on their feed, and just weird seeing your image get 500,000 likes or something.
What is it you did? Was it running stuff?
Yeah, it was mainly running. It's a bit of a cliche of most of the content they seem to go for was definitely female runners. Unfortunately, pictures of R. Craig and people like that.
R. Craig. Oh dear. Yeah. That's crazy.
They obviously had this cost justification for it, and how much does social media cost and what is this and what is that. It's safe to say the rate for their one time only, an image to be used just once on one sole Instagram post was a very handsome rate. It was just about $2,000.
Right.
But obviously for them, the big multinational mobility company, it's nothing in the ground. And for you, it was licensing images that you may have in existence in your archive or something that you got out and about. And I can't talk too much about too many workings. But
no.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
So going quickly back to the World Cup stuff then. So obviously you've got your retainers and your set jobs and stuff that you've got to do while you're out and about at the World Cup. And is he back?
It's jolly.
Oh, is it? Oh, right, okay. So how does it work then when you get to the World Cups? So do you sort of head up onto the hill to get the snap straight away, and then do you sort of...
Well, say it's, you get to a World Cup. If it's the first one of the season, there's an awful lot of trying to do work, but everyone talks to each other and chats and has a big old social. Because it's like a big traveling circus. It's this crazy freak show that goes from different corners of the world, and it's the same people in the same places over and over and over, and you see these people probably more than you see your actual friends through the summer. I think it's been insane. It's I maybe had 40 sleeps in my own bed in an entire year this year.
I know all too well.
Yeah, I've not been about. But so you get there, and this World Cup, you got your days, you got your schedules. You got a day which is track walk, and then it's fairly mellow. You got a day that's the practice, and you got your qualifying day, and then you get your finals day. Yeah. And World Cup hours aren't too sympathetic. For practice days, quali days, final days, you get up at 6 or whatever, out the door straight away, real quick breakfast. You're in the pits because the women and Group B riders are warming up in the mornings, and you've got athletes that you're being paid to photograph, produce content for, say like Manon over at Madison South. Well,
is it tough to keep a track on everyone then as well when you're there? Or?
You get pretty dialed in. You know who you're keeping an eye for. And besides, from an editorial perspective, so obviously you do the work. So for me, editorial is vital. You've got to tell the story of the day, and you don't know exactly what's going to happen in the day, and you have to shoot to cover all bases. So you will generally have images of like anything interesting and whatever's going on, or anything that looks nice, anything that's a good photo. So you're up there and they're warming up at like 7:15 or whatever, and then they're on the hill. They're getting into the uplift for 7:30, and practice starts 8, and sometimes earlier at other events if it's world champs or whatever. And then you're on the hill from 8 through to 5-ish. That's constantly shooting, action, bikes, moving about, trying to make sure your shot spots aren't all the same, because you've got a variety of clients that you need to give images to. You don't just give them all the same looking image, because then it doesn't really work until their outputs look the same. And you're making sure that you're getting cool images, shots that will satisfy brands that are like, nice tight action. But other people sometimes want to show like, maybe where they are a bit more. And certainly for the editorial side of things, it's nice to get creative every now and again. So it's quite a lot to like consider in the day. You get off the hill and then it's straight into the pits, and for Vital you're collecting audio interviews to tell of it, anything that's significant that's gone on the day. You're interviewing the key guys or whatever, what's happened, and shooting again lifestyle of people winding down from the day, mechanics at work and all that. And then probably about 7 you then sit down at the computer, put the memory cards in, make sure they're backed up, because you don't want data disasters at World Cups. We've had one like before, and that wasn't pretty. And start the big process. You take nearly 3,000 photos in a day.
I was going to say, you must come down with a few thousand, then you literally have to sift through.
So you go through everything, you rate it as to how. So basically, you can assign a color to an image in the organization software, and each client has a set color, or like 2 clients share one color, depending on how it goes. And you assign everything a color if it relates to a client, and at the same time, if an image is good, or better than good, or of interest, you assign it like a 1-star rating. Right. And then once you actual pass, you can look at your images and you can be like, right, let's do my, first of all, you do your client selections, get that out to all those guys so they've got their social media images and everything to push. Preferably you started earlier than 7, more like 6, and because I always try to get these to people before like 8 or 9. So you go through and you then probably deliver like 250 images just out to your clients and social that day usage
all
stuff.
Via email and stuff like that.
Yeah, email. Dropbox has been the way that it kind of works now. It was the last few years, apart from this year, been quite a higgledy-piggledy mix depending on what certain marketing managers or athletes want to use. And there was a point where you like emailed it to someone, put it in a Dropbox for someone else in that company, and then you Facebook message it to the athletes for them to use, and it was like, way more easily. So now it's like Dropbox. Everyone's in the Dropboxes. Everyone knows what's going on. Everyone sorts of stuff, and then you send that, and you go through again. You look at your 1-star images. This is everything from the day, and from an editorial interest. There could be if it was a good day, you could have 1-starred as many as 500 images, and you need to cut this down to about 40 to 20 images from the day. So you then go through on another pass and you give everything a 2-star, and then you go through on another pass and you give everything a 2-star, and then you got your images. And at this point, you then sort of sit down with, sometime around this, you've either had a takeaway or you sat down at dinner with your laptop in front of you, as every other photographer is doing. Dinner, and like they're wondering what you're doing at the restaurant, and then you have this weird thought that it's strange. I've eaten out like 68 days in a row. And you're like, what is going on? And then you're back at work and you collaborate. So you get to the end of the day and you've got to tell the story for the editorial. So you collaborate. I collaborate with Sven and Boris Bayer, and we put and Hearn actually this year as well. And you put together the editorial story from the day. You write all the written captions for that. You ship it with all the audios, and that's done. Sent. Good. Now this could be between 11:30 at the earliest and like 1:30 on average. Like you finish this and then again the next day, do it all again. That like 4 days on the row, it's back-to-back events. You do that 4 days on the row, have like 3 days off, 4 days on a row, and you're like, it does tire you out a bit because
Oh,
it's a
I
strange one because you can't switch off. It's not a job you can't do unless you're 100% concentrating, because like an image simply doesn't take itself, and it certainly doesn't take itself with a conscious like awareness of the compositions, you know, like what you're including, how you want to show, what sort of, you know, what's happening, and just basically putting all the elements of a photo together. So yeah, that's like a World Cup day. An EWS day is similar, except we get to ride our bike, which kind of makes it a fair bit nicer.
At the beginning of the show, we told you we would be giving you the chance to win some 35 Bikes merchandise. So all you have to do is keep an eye on our Instagram account, which is at the Hookit Podcast. And at some point on Sunday evening, this coming Sunday, we will be posting a photo, and you just have to share it, like it, and you can be in with the chance of winning a 35 Bikes winter gift pack. Let's get back on with the show. So I know we sort of touched on it briefly before, but as far as projects go, so you've done like loads of cool projects like Deep Summer 2013, that'll have been. You've done some team launch stuff as well, but is there any sort of one particular project you've done which is like rocketed your career?
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's necessarily anything that's been like a massive career upstart. Actually, the best thing for the career has generally been being around the World Cups, meeting the people from the different companies that are obviously involved in the companies, meeting the athletes. You know, the athletes put you forward for a job, that goes a long way. And, you know, having a daily output from the World Cups, and people in the industry are maybe interested in racing, and they see that, and they see the images being turned out day after day, that's generally been the best thing. Mm-hmm. But as far as projects which have been good fun and like that stand out, I still the ones like the Hope Grim Up North project, where you know, it was a good crew. It was like, you know, Sharpie, Joe, myself, Craig, Sam Flanagan, Rachel Walker, and a silly set of conditions to be up that but, you know, making it work and getting some cool photos and video at the time, and just, you know, it was sort of like a bit of adversity against you, and it made it all quite a fun thing. But Trans-Provence is always another good experience every year. Shooting that one, it's like 5 days of some of the most amazing riding back to back, and you kind of feel like there's only a few of you that would be able to sort of, I say a few, there's probably, you know, 20 odd people in the world that would be able to like put that distance down each day, have the race knowledge to understand when like riders will be coming down the trail, because there's no set start times, but you get into a general psychology of knowing who likes to ride where in a pack, or like, you know, who's set off just wants to get the day done, or like if someone else comes down, you know, who's going to roughly be after them, so you know not to set off, or you know who, you know, you know, you can actually take pictures in that environment under a lot of, you know, like, you know, run and gun, basically high intensity riding for 5 days. And it's always cool to see what you can turn out from that one, and be like, you know, there's probably some London studio photographers that take insane images or whatever, but like probably couldn't have just done that. So that feel kind of smug.
Funny. So would you say that's your favourite thing to go out and do, is Trans-Provence?
It's definitely up there. I do think Grim Up North takes it as my favourite project, though.
Really?
Just as it's something about being, you know, in a nice bit of the UK as well. Like you do go around a lot, but like projects that happen in the UK are always pretty cool. It's nice to see, you know, what's close to home. And
good stuff. That's what you want.
Like, it's getting stuck in like 100-mile-an-hour gusts and minus 15-degree wind chills, and it was cool.
Crazy. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I like to try and keep these things to around an hour, so we'll not do too much.
I can rapid fire the next few questions if you've got a few to get through.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. It'd be hilarious. Okay, favourite rider to work with?
Oh, gosh, actually, this is hard. Guys like Josh, Bryson, always got to be up there, because, you know, if you're doing a photo shoot, and, you know, there's part like, you know, you've got to understand what they're capable of doing and how a photo can come together and what would be cool to maybe make a good photo. Yeah. But with someone like Josh, he'd always just come out with some outlandish suggestion like, I could do this. And you're like, can you? Like, really? He goes and does it. And you're like, all right, yeah, that's pretty sick.
That's cool. Okay. So, Josh.
Yeah, they're all pretty awesome. But like, yeah, it's always a good time with Josh. Actually, like just going out. Obviously, it's another name that people throw out there, but we're just in Madeira with Brendan earlier in the year,
Right.
and for his movie that he's filming, I think we can talk about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's common knowledge.
Pretty sure.
Death Grip.
Death Grip,
Yeah.
and he was riding absolutely mentally. And again, it was interesting. The riders that really, really get into it get giddy and get excited, and just push and push themselves, and like you end up, stopping the shoot, ending the shoot at like it's gone completely pitch black, only because there's no light available anymore, and everything's just been sort of like snowballing through the day, and it all builds up, and it's cool.
That's sick.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah.
Worst rider to work with? I'm only joking. You don't have to do that. No, let's not do that. Best thing about your job?
Best thing about my job is being outdoors and seeing some incredible places.
Yeah.
And like you meet a lot of interesting personalities as well riding bikes. I think that's like the travel side of it is amazing.
Yeah.
But I tell you, like some of the favourite places I've been are like some areas of Scotland and like some places you go in the UK. It's not far from home, the travel that really wow you. And
no, I had a drive today through the lakes, and it's one of them where you have to stop every now and again and be like, "What the hell? This isn't even in the UK. It's crazy." So there's some beautiful places around, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So the lifestyle and the travelling side of it is definitely a huge draw, and continues to be a big draw for you.
Yeah, it does. Like, granted, I can sound a bit pessimistic this time of the year when it's sort of like culminated in so many days abroad, and you've never been at home, you don't see your friends, you don't see your family, you don't see your girlfriend, and it's like, but like, yeah, give me another 2 weeks and I'll be itching to get on the move again.
Funny. 2017 race predictions, downhill, obviously.
Oh, God.
I know it's tough because there's a lot happening right now, but it seems like everyone's pretty healthy coming into the season.
Yeah, we're going to have like one of the healthiest.
It's going to be a deep field.
And there's a bit of team shuffling, and there's going to be people on new setups that are like, not being on those setups, but have been used to certain bikes for so long and stuff. It's getting, what we saw this season was like, you'd always have someone from the top 30 to 40 riders that made it into the top 10,
Yeah.
and it tightens and tightens at the top more and more and more every year. And we definitely saw, you got quite like, they always call it a changing of the guard. I don't really think it's a changing of guard. It's more of like an addition to the guard.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, totally.
The Lucas, the Loris, the Lorries, all those people that were juniors at the same age are like just stacked, and like Maury Piron after his like injuries.
Yeah.
These guys all have World Cup wins in them. And
I think Laurie could have one this year. I don't know why. I'm just...
Yeah, well, you see the people that like, just have a really solid progression, and they gain the confidence and their head game fits. There's guys like Brayton. He's an absolutely sick rider, and he had that like third or second place at Shumpert or something years and years ago. And then ever since, like, there's like a switch that needs to be flipped. And at the start of this year, he was just like, bam, he's on it, and he's like completely just been amazing all year. That's been so good to see as well. Like, obviously, having done quite a few projects with him around the Hope side of stuff, that was like pretty special to see him pushing on through. But yeah, as far as race winners are, like, I know this sounds like a boring political answer, but like, it's the honest truth of like, you can never discount like the Gregs, the Gwynns, all these guys, and you're just piling in more and more people now on top of it, and they just push themselves so ridiculously hard in these race runs now. It's ridiculous. Like, you used to be able
Formula One, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, like, you used to those. You can probably remember those interviews with Greg, and he's like, I just rode smooth. And he won, and it was like, I tried to ride smooth and we're good. It's like, you had guys like Lewick who are the smoothest ever riders ever, like for quite not smooth. They've ridden incredibly smoothly through their whole career, and then you see now that
it's
desire a race run, and the race run is on the edge. Like Remy Tiron looks on the edge, he's always smooth. Gwyn looks on the edge when he's racing. Danny looks on the edge when he's racing. It's like you can't win with a smooth race run now. I remember like Greg Menard crashing in like the second straight or whatever, fourth straight at Val de Sol last year, when he was like, he came out the last round like, I've got to really do something to, take this. And you saw him ride like not smooth, not like that, you sort of know, and he was going for it like absolutely smashing it, and it kind of blew up on like a rocky straight. But that's the limit now that everyone has to push to. So it's going to be exciting racing for sure.
I think so too. Are you looking forward to being like a bit more of a spectator for it?
Yeah, I am actually.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'll go to any events. I think I probably will end up at one or two, but yeah, just simply actually being nice to catch up with the people and chat to them, and not be
laid back.
Not be this dehydrated, underfed, dishevelled wreck coming off there like every
With
day.
a nosebleed.
Like, just need to get to my computer.
Brilliant. So I'm not sure either, man. I'm hoping that Danny has a really good year. Obviously, I'm going to hope that Loic has a fantastic year because he's on said joystick products. But yeah, I don't know. It is literally, it's wide open. It's rad. I'm excited for 2017 for the downhill stuff, the moto stuff as well. Obviously, I'm a huge moto fan, but moto is wide open for January, like for Anaheim 1. So it's going to be a good year. Maybe too much sitting behind a laptop for me watching racing, but it'll give us something to chat about. Last thing I want to ask you as well is, obviously you've got Hurly Burly coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
So let's promote it. Tell us what it is.
Well, rewind a few months, and
please.
Mike Rose actually started off the idea over at Dirt, and unfortunately he just basically became too busy, and he realised he wasn't going to be able to make it into reality, and sort of passed the torch to James McKnight, who is... He's really switched on, as James. Like, he is, he knows what's going on. He's a brilliant bloke. And all along it was me, Sven, and Sebastian Schick, the Hoff, who was going to be providing images. And, James just sort of got us, got us in an orderly sort of fashion, made us sort everything, so it was on our case. Because we were still working for the most part of this coming together, and we really needed someone like him to stay on top of it. And then he then fortunately went and did basically all the heavy legwork, so he's the main guy to thank for all this. We took the pictures and provided them, and provided some sort of insight. He was at a lot of the races himself. But we also provided some of our insight as to what was going on, so he could properly convey it. And then, along with a pretty stellar list of contributors who've done some articles, we've got a 200-page book, which only I think has 4 double-page ads through the whole thing. The rest of it is 192 pages of full-page photos, content, articles, wise words from people, basically putting across the round-to-round feel and the overall vibe from the whole racing year in quintessential yearbook format.
Awesome. It's gonna be good. When's it out? Do you know yet?
This Friday. It's going to start. It comes back from the printers, and it's going to start shipping next Monday. So pretty soon.
We'll include some links and stuff into the. Is there a website or anything? Do you know?
There is. It's Downhill Yearbook.
Downhillyearbook.com. Downhillyearbook.com. Okay,
yes,
I'll throw some links in this anyway. Don't worry, there'll be some links. It's all good. It's all
good.
Yeah. So,
it's really cool. I think to have something like that and not doing downhill next year, it's made it quite a nice.
is it a little send off, bud?
Yeah, well, not like a send off for me, but it's something for me to have that's going to be really nice to remember the year bike, because I wish I printed more of my photos, but I never really get around to it.
Okay. Awesome. So that, and obviously the Dirt one as well, been out as well, is a.
Get right. Sitting on the desk right here. So.
Is it? Okay, I'm going to come around and have a look. Right, okay. Listener questions. I only got a few, because most of them were brutal.
Rather lewd.
Yeah, there were some crazy ones on there. It's always a bit weird as to what comes back from listener questions, because you got, when we did the Danny Hart one, there was loads of people wanting to know a bunch of stuff, but it's no discredit to you at all. It's just, as the show is building, more and more of them seem to come in, and sometimes they just don't. I don't know. But I picked up quite a few. There was a lot of people who did submit them, mostly direct messages and stuff like that as well. So one of them, I think this is your mate, I don't know, Nick Armstrong. Yeah. And he put, what's the complete story on how you cut your toe up the mountain? So I just wondered
Nick's one of the good guys that joined part of the EWS media staff this year for some of the later rounds. And I rocked up in La Tuile after having worked at Lenzerheide with 3 stitches under my big toe, nearly cut the thing off. because I might have been in flip flops walking around a lake with my girlfriend, and we had 3 weeks of our holiday left together. We were about to head to Chamonix and do some cool mountain climbing and stuff, and had a really good trip ahead. And I got caught short. I needed the toilet. I needed a bit more than a wee, and so I scurried up into the bushes and I slipped in my flip flops, and it must have been either a razor sharp rock or like a branch that was cut to an angle or like a bit of glass. But yeah, it was like, I felt like I just caught my foot on something. And when you get like such a fine, perfect cut, it's been proper deep and it's super fine. No. It didn't hurt at first, but within seconds it was just blood going everywhere. And I had to drive myself to Swiss hospital, which I just got a lovely secondary medical bill from the other day in the post that I need to sort out. And I had to go get it stitched together.
No way. Okay, hopefully that answers that for Nick then. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Funny. I got another one in from a guy called Darren Wilson. What advice do you have for aspiring photographers?
Yeah, I think with the worlds of social media and stuff, it's much easier just to get your shots out there. But having said that, it's now such a plethora of images that it's easy for them to get lost. So at least what stands out to me is if you have some thought to your images and you collate them in a nice way, or you put them to some sort of purpose, and you then send that more directly to, say, editorial people, and they maybe run that as an article, or and they're probably they're going to be making money off you for free at first, but if it's a good quality article, that will lead to you getting really well noticed, say more than just trying to strive to have 10,000 Instagram followers or something like that would, to the people that it matters, the people that could potentially hire you and all that. And likewise, if it's something like race photography you're interested in, going to like your national series at first, there are a lot of the teams there, you can meet the athletes and things like that. And then obviously when a Royal Round comes nearby, the accreditation can be a bit awkward at times, but it's fairly straightforward to do. And go and sort of be there. Don't be afraid to sort of like approach people, but be aware when you're being a nuisance and it's like downtime for the athletes.
Awesome. Good stuff. Last one. At Tim Roebuck on Instabanger. What's your favourite shot of all time and why?
One that I've taken.
Yeah. Nah. Yeah. Let's do both. Why not?
Gosh. Oh, it's a tricky one. I think favourite shot of all time, that's not mine. I see a lot of amazing mountain bike pictures, but I probably have to go outside of that to stuff that is just really cheesily considered some of the best classic shots of all time. Like people like René Burry and like the Magnum photographers, with these incredible edgy cityscapes and people in them and stuff, and they just draw you in so good. But because I don't know, and of my own photos, I don't know. You come in and out of love with photos so it's quite hard. So your own best photo can be affected by a lot of things. It can be affected by your mood at the time, or how hard you strive to get that photo to make it happen. And if it took a lot of work, that photo will hold more to you as a person than say another photo would that could technically be better and that other people would rate as a better photo. If you get what I mean?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
And in that light, gosh, I need to have a proper sit down and look. I need to update my website. And
I was on your website before. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's got
nice.
A quarter done. I redid the graphics of it, but the design of it, and I just started putting new content on. But you shoot. I'd totaled up last year. I totaled up the amount of images I'd taken in the year. It was about 250,000 photos.
Wow.
And it might have been skewed a little bit with one or two time lapses, but that's a lot of pictures. And to pick a favourite and to remember everything is quite hard. If someone showed me a picture, and even if it's not heavily descriptive of where it is or what it's of or something, I can remember the exact moment I was taking that. But for me to then remember that photo randomly out of the blue, it's really tricky.
Tough. I think the best thing for Tim to do is go on to DuncanPhilpott.com. Choose for yourself.
Should hopefully be on there. I mean, there's still a few more to put on, but I'm sorry, that's a pretty lame answer to that question.
It's all good, man. I think, we just hit the hour mark, so I think that's pretty good, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
First podcast experience, casting your mind back. telling stories and hanging out.
Drag the start out a bit long, but
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good fun. I really appreciate you doing it, dude. I really do.
Yeah.
It's good of you.
Pleasure to be on. Thankfully, you asked me.
Hey, it was always going to come around. Last but not least, I think, where can people find out more about you? Obviously, there's DuncanPhilpott.com on Instagram, I guess.
Yep, there's also the Random Squid Instagram account at P for Dunk, which is like if you're interested in what goes on a little more behind the scenes or what my phone is generally pointing at, it tends to go on there.
Other than
like
the floor.
All sorts of manner of stuff will appear on there.
Okay.
It can be super controlled or very. I mean, the early stuff was a lot of there's the odd drunken New Zealand anecdote, but like it's not like it's not curated by any sense now, but it's just a bit of an eclectic mismatch of all sorts.
That's cool.
Obviously the website.
Yeah.
And
again, I'll link everything up in the description. All
right. But like, if anyone does have any questions, just drop me an email or whatever. You can find it on the website.
Nice. You get inundated now when this goes live.
Yeah. It's always nice when people ask you questions because it's like there's nothing more that stakes you out when you get like a question from a random person or like a young kid or something. And someone either gives you some props or they're curious about something because they respect your opinion on it. And
that's really cool.
Yeah, I never, I'll always take the time to answer those.
Well, hopefully, like some of the people who follow you on Instagram and your fans, so to speak, will enjoy hearing a little bit more about what goes into what you do. I think it's cool just to sit down. I mean, like I've learned loads. Like I had no idea how a lot of it worked or how you got into this. I had no idea, and I've known you for years, so it's, we're all learning. Yeah, for sure, man. Well, thanks again. I'll let you get on with your evening. It looks like you've got a busy house as usual, and
people don't knock here. They just open the door and walk in.
Funny. Right, have a good evening, dude. Thanks again. Much appreciated.
No worries.
Later, man. Bye.
See you.
And there we go, folks. Episode 14 is in the bag. An awesome conversation with Duncan Philpott. And again, thanks for tuning in, checking this out. Thanks for giving us a follow if you already do. It's at the Hookit Podcast on pretty much every social media network. Most importantly, Facebook and Twitter. You can head to hookitproducts.co.uk. Just click the About section and there's a link to iTunes for the podcast as well. Check out all our stuff that we distribute. That's also pretty cool. And a huge thank you as well to our new sponsors, Motoshack. So if you need any stickers for your mountain bike, suspension forks, wheels, whether it's helmet stickers, motocross bike, vehicle stuff, anything sticky, you'll get a 10% discount just by mentioning the podcast throughout the whole of December. And thank you to 35 Bikes, our in-house brand, for providing us some swag to give away. Hopefully you are going to enter the competition on Sunday evening and win some stuff. So, we'll see you in episode 15. Peace out. Bye.